All right, what's going on, guys? Um, in for repair today, what I have is an iPad Air 1, or sorry, iPad Pro. This is the first generation iPad Pro. And what's going on with it is, let me show you guys here real quick. I'm going to connect up to a charger so you guys can see what's going on here. And this is how I do my own testing to see if there's something wrong with these devices. I connect them up to my, because customers come in and they tell me, hey, my tablet or my phone or whatever it is, it's not charging, right? There's other tools out there that you can buy to test it, to test some of these devices. Um, Most of the products that I've seen is for like Apple devices. But from doing repairs, what I've realized is that I can do some of these repairs without most of those fancy tools, and most of those guys realize that too. They just kind of get like a free sample of that thing, whatever it is, whatever they're selling, and they kind of advertise blah 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 and so on and so forth. I found the way to do it is plug it up to the charger. If it's pulling some kind of current, then I know that it can't be the charging port. If it's not pulling, then I just automatically go to the charging port. After I replace the charging port, then I'll fix anything else after that. That might be the problem. But first thing I do is plug it up. If there's nothing coming from the charging port, I change the charging port. If I do see some kind of fluctuation from the charging port, then I move on past the charging port and I try to figure out what else could be the problem. Okay. Right now, this is what I have. I'm taking this selfie camera down so you guys can see what's going on here. So I have this plugged up already, and as you can see right here, right, it's pulling nothing, so it's not charging. Now I'm going to connect a regular phone, which is my personal phone, to this same charger. I'm going to leave this right here. I'm going to disconnect this, and I'm going to take this, and I'm trying to make sure that you guys can see this. I'm plugging this in here, and I'm gonna take it and connect it up to my phone so you guys can see what happens. So once you plug it up to a working device, this is what I got right now from my phone. That lets me know that my charging port is fine. But once I go to press my phone, I can see that my phone is also working. So that's just the reason why I showed you that my phone is working, is just to kind of give you a starting foundation to say, hey, um, this is how I check. Okay. I'm just trying to think before I speak. All right. So go ahead and connect back up this iPad, and we get nothing, not even a blink, nothing. So let's go ahead and replace this charging port. Then after we replace the charging ports, we will do some further testing, and together we hopefully will fix this problem, whatever is wrong with it. So let's go ahead and put this camera back here. Okay. I'm gonna peel off this tape here that I have. Okay, maybe that's just a coating, so it's not a piece of tape. But on the back side, there is definitely no tape because I've removed it already. So let's go ahead and look at this port. Let me get you guys underneath this microscope so you guys can see what's going on. So here I am underneath the microscope, and here's that connector. Turn this light down just a tad bit. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove this connector, and we will replace this connector with a different connector. I'm going to turn on my fume extractor, so you guys are going to hear some sound. That is just the fume extractor. And all I'm doing right now is I'm just going over the solder that's on the board with my iron. Now I'm just going to add some new solder, which should help me remove this connector safe. That way I don't have to worry about damaging anything. This is one of the ways to remove this connector. You just want to make sure that you're always adding heat to it. Never stop adding heat to it as you're lifting it. Just slowly keep your iron on it, or just keep going back and forth, back and forth. I'm not pulling on this real hard. I'm just letting it release itself. I'm just taking my time, no rush. Hear anything sounds like it's pulling, then back off a little bit. Put some more flux if you hear anything ripping, just to make sure. I mean, I have no shame in, making sure that I don't rip anything and I kind of get this off all in one piece and not have to worry about any kind of damage. I suggest you guys do the same if you're doing this. Take your time. I don't even want to pull it here. There we go. Check, and as you can see, all the pads are still there. So that is a success. We removed it and we didn't pull any pads. If you pull pads, sometimes it can be okay, other times it can be a pain because you can pull an NC pad, which is it's just not connected, and you'll be fine. But if you pull one that is important or it goes somewhere else, then you're gonna have to put that pad back. If you don't put that pad back, then you'll have problems with the device. So. And I wouldn't suggest doing this at home. If if you do have the tools and you believe that you know what you're doing, then yes, but I wouldn't. Okay. That looks good to me. Let's go ahead and let's clean up a little bit, and then we'll put our new connector down, and then we'll test again to see if this thing is charging. If it is charging, then that's it. This repair is done. If not, then it is the charging chip or the chip that's part of the charging circuit that controls charging. That could also be the problem. But we won't be able to find out until we go ahead and we put this new connector on. Won't be able to tell. So here's my new connector. Goes on like that. And I'm gonna do this one just like I did the last one. What I do is I go and I get myself some double side tape. All right. So here we go. I got my double side tape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of it. Cut it. I'm going to put it right on the edge right here. That way it's easy for me to peel it off. I'm just cutting it down. just in case I don't get a chance to remove it. It's not a big deal. It's not going to be this thick piece of double side tape that's sticking out. It's just going to be a very small piece. That's if, like I said, more than likely I'll get it out. No problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's try to find one of our holes here. Looks like I got one right there. The one over here somewhere. All right, so let's go ahead and let's put some flux. And that looks good. I suggest you guys use a bigger iron. Don't use that small iron. I don't even know why I even use that small iron. I'm lining up that hole right there. There we go. We got that one lined up. About this one, I'm having a hard time with this one over here. I'm not sure why that is. This one is fine. There we go. I don't know if you guys can see the second one over here. Right there. I gotta clean this. I can't see through this window over here. Uh, Cook it. So let's bring it down more. More. Down a little bit more. Right there. This one up a little bit like that. And you know what? Let's tack this side down first. I got a few of those tacked down. Let's do this side. Tack this side down also. That. Okay. So that looks like it's tacked down a little bit, enough that I can get my iron in here and get everything lined up. Okay, so let's come in here with something to press down on this connector, which is going to help it sit flat. And that way we can make sure that we get a good connection. So I'm going to come in here with this huge tweezer that I have. I remember when I first got this tweezer, I had, I'm like, what am I going to do with this thing? And I had it thrown down for, I don't know how long. Because I was always looking for a smaller tweezer to get these, soldering jobs done. So I never wanted this big old hunky thing. I'm like, oh man, I'm never going to use this tweezer. And now I find myself using it a lot. I don't know if maybe because I'm not afraid to, take whatever I find on my desk anymore and use it. Maybe that has something to do with it. Not sure, but this thing has come in handy. I'm just going over these one by one. I'm just stacking them down, making sure that they are soldered in there. I'm sure I'll go back over them one more time, but for now, I just want to get them all back in place. And there is some solder on the other side of these connectors, so that was the last part that you see me do was just go over it real quick with some solder just to make sure that I had something that was going to come through these holes. So just like that, and I'll keep going. All right, let's go back and not only clean them up, but make sure that we got all these smaller holes, they're all filled where I feel good about them. I'm gonna keep going through them all like that. Uh, put some more flux down on that one. I don't like the way that one is. I don't know where I left off from, but I didn't like the way that one wasn't really taking the solder. That one, that one definitely needed some solder there. I mean, it's okay if I can see in the hole. Don't mind it. But really just trying to get it all looking nice. So I'm just going over it again and again, filling in all those little holes there that are all filled in. That like that. I'm just kind of dragging it, right? Dragging it. All right, and that looks good. So let's go ahead and let's clean this up. And like I said, we did put that double side tape all the way out here on the end, so you can't see it. But let's go ahead and make sure that none of these are connected to each other. Nope. All right, I'm gonna plug this up to a charger. All right, so I plugged it up to a charger and I get nothing. Nothing at all. So plugged it up to the charger, still nothing. Right? So I think this is the actual charging IC and not the actual charging port. Okay? That's just what I think for now. Let's do one more test, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the housing. Because usually even without the housing, it still would work because it's just recognizing the charging port. So usually it kind of turns on and well, let me put some double side tape over this before I go ahead and put it in the board and then hook power up to it and short circuit the board. Let's prevent that from happening before it happens. Okay, double side tape. Was at least a million screws on there. All right, so let's see what happens now. And it's still the same. So it's pulling nothing. It's not charging at all. So this one is definitely the charging IC and not the actual charging port. Okay, so let's locate that charging IC. Not sure if we're going to get to do that today, but regardless, let's look around, see where it's at. Is that it? Is that it? Not sure where it's at on this board. Oh, it's right there. So which one is this? 0. Sorry. Let me look again. 16183. And let's see what we can replace it with. I think we can replace it with the 3B, but we'll see. And we said this was an iPad Pro. Don't see it. Or at least maybe I did and I just kind of overlooked it. So let's look. And I'm just looking on mobile centrics and just seeing what they suggest. Yep, so it can use the 3B. So we're going to use 610A3B charging IC. So let's check out our area where we're going to be working. Let's see if there's anything around that we need to protect. And it doesn't seem like there's anything that we need to protect around here. So let me go ahead and let's find that IC, and then we'll go from there. And I'm sure I have it. It's just finding it in this mess. Found all my Samsung chips. See if we can find all of our Apple. iPhone 7 camera boost. Just in case we lose a component. I think we found it. Let's see. Chip 610A3B. So we found the chip. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's remove this one from this board and replace it. Okay. So I got my gloves. Let's go ahead and start removing. Turn on hot air. Okay. And I just turn on my hot air and I'm just gonna go with it. I don't have a temperature that I'm, specific. I just kind of go in there and just slowly but surely feel it out, see what's going on with it, what heat it's really taking to, and then I go from there. All right, so I'm gonna look around. That's a good grip right there. I'm gonna hold my heat on this side over here, which is gonna blow it towards this chip or this way. So yeah, I think that'll work. Oh, too much air. And I really want to be careful because that chip definitely has what's called underneath it. I really want to stay away from it. I'm talking about the chip right next to it. It has underfill, so that's why I'm coming from this angle right here, trying to avoid any heat going to it. There we go. All right, so we got that off. Now let's go ahead and let's clean up the area. And the dot was up here, so we just got to remember that. Put some more flux down here. Didn't want to drown it in flux, but also would not like to pull any pads over here, so just taking my time. Okay. All right, let's go back over this one more time. And I'm going to use some braid here. I'm going to use a very small piece. And the only thing I'm going to do is just like that. I'm just flattening them down with the braid. That's all I'm really doing. So I'm coming in here and I'm pressing down with my braid, lifting up, making sure that I flatten out all these components. For all these, just like that. You need a little touch up, just go back over them and just slowly just touch them up. Nice and easy. That one is a ground pad, I think. It's reacting. Okay, and I'm not gonna clean. Even though I know some people out there would say, "Oh, why didn't you clean that?" I'm not gonna clean it. I'm putting a component right back there, and flux is not going to hurt the board. It's only going to help. Comes to getting your components into place and getting the solder to work with you. Flux only helps. Hasn't moved yet, so I know it's not in place yet, and that's what I'm waiting for. You can see back here. Here we go. Dropped in place. All right, so let's let the board cool down a little bit. Once it's cooled down, we will test it and see what's going on with it. All right, no balls shooting out nowhere. All right, so let's give it. Let's give it maybe. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna give it like 5 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna use something. I think I might have it over there. I'm gonna see if I still do. It'll help me cool the board down just a little bit faster. Because I'm sure you guys don't want to sit here and just watch a board slowly cool down. But so I'm gonna try to speed the process up. See if I have it. It's been a while since I've used that one. Yep, and I found it. And here it is. It's just like a little piece of rubber that I use. Um, and it helps with the actual cooling down. If you need to cool it down real fast, you just kind of stick it on there and it just absorbs the heat for you and help the board cools down a little bit faster. Which the board is pretty much down the temp already. I could probably connect it up and see what's going on with it because that is the next step. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna just a little bit longer. A little bit. A little bit. Like I said, I think this fixes the problem. Not 100% sure. But we'll be able to tell here in a few seconds if it is going to fix our problem or if we're going to have other issues with it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's see what happens when I connect it up. If I've solved the problem or if I've done nothing. All right, so now that we have the board connected up, look what we're getting. Hopefully you guys can see that. So it's charging. That's what that's telling me. Once I see the voltage is fluctuating like that, that lets me know that the charging port is working now and the charging IC that I replaced is working fine. Okay, so that's it for this repair, guys. I mean, if you do run into that problem, like I said, you can buy a tool that will probably tell you what's wrong with it. I've seen videos of people using that same tool, and the results aren't always, it's not 100%. It's not guaranteed. Um, my method is changing two components, and you've seen this video. It probably took me 30 minutes. Don't get me wrong. I've been doing this for, quite some time now, but either way, I mean, 40 minutes, that's what it took me to get this whole job done, including changing the charging port and changing the charging IC. Um, Even if I had the TriStar tool, I think they call it, or I think there's an ICC Pro or something like that. I think it's called, or something like that. Even if I had that, takes a few minutes, test it. I've seen them, you know, give different results where it tells you it's a charging port, and I've seen people change the charging port and it's not the charging port. It end up being the charging IC, and they still have to go back and change the charging IC. So the tool is good, in the sense that it kind of narrows it down for you if you're unexperienced about these repairs. But if you do have some experience, you're better off just going straight for what you know to be the problem. And if that doesn't solve it, then you just kind of go down the line, um, of what could solve this problem. That's it. If there's a short circuit, then there's going to be a high pull. So I knew that it wasn't a short circuit because I didn't get any kind of voltage at all. I didn't get any kind of current consumption from the tablet. It wasn't pulling anything, so I knew that it wasn't a short necessarily. Um, so I knew that it either was a charging port because I do a lot of iPad charging ports, and that usually fixes charging issues. When they come in here and I plug them up, they're showing nothing. I change the charging port, they're fine. This one is a little bit different. So in the future, when I'm approaching these, I think what I'll do is, because what I've done before also is on the back side, on this side of the board, if you plug up your charger, you can test back here and see if you're getting any voltage, on these connectors, if you want to call them vias or whatever you want to call them. On the back right here, you see it right where that yellow tape is, right here. So if I really thought about it, I could have tested back here and see if I was getting the 5 volt from my charger, and then that would have let me know, okay, well, it's not a charging port issue, then it's somewhere else. So if you're new to this and you want to figure out without buying that tool, you can try that first. Probe the back with your multimeter, voltage, plug it up to a charger, see if you're getting any voltage there. If you're not getting any voltage, then more than likely it's your charging port. If you are getting voltage, then it's further down the board that the problem exists. Okay? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you.